Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. I have a topic tonight that I think about a lot. It bothers me when I hear parents and players and even sometimes coaches, but especially players and parents talking about it, because I don't think that's how they're judged when when
Okay.
when they go to the next level. And of course, I have that perspective now. You have that perspective. Luckily, we played in an organization you played in an organization growing up where nobody really focused on it. And I think that's part of why we are where we are. But statistics. Talk to me about statistics. I think it's something people think way too much about in a game.
Oof. How much time we got here? You're laying a big one on me. No, I think
4 hours.
two sentences in, I kind of knew what you were going at already. And I love this because I think it's super prevalent just with travel ball, high school ball, whatever sport you're playing. It's applicable to a lot of things, even in life. I think it's really easy to get caught up in statistics because it's how people try to compare themselves to each other, right? So I think in a game like softball, that becomes really hard because there's so many variables to try to point out. To compare yourself to another player is so hard. So that's why people turn to stats and they're like, well, I'm batting 250, I'm batting 350. And if you think about it, it's really interesting, right? Because some sports are like totally stat based, right? Track, for example, right? It's you against someone else, you're running a race, your time is your time, and that's it. Softball is, well, how fast is the pitcher? What were the weather conditions? What was this like? What was that? Who are you playing, right? Are you injured? Like, there's a lot happening in softball, and I think that's why sometimes like people get so caught up in stats to try to compare themselves to one another. And I think it's just the wrong way to go about sports and the wrong way to go about life. I mean, you can attest to this. In high school, I have no idea what my batting average was. And I'm not saying that now. At the time, I had no idea what my batting average was. And now when I look at girls in high school, that's a crazy concept. Like they can't understand that when I say it to them. But it was truly like, hey, I'm on a pretty good high school team. We want to we want to win sectionals. We want to try to go to states. What can I do to help my team get there? And it was never, and that's a testament to you and my coaches and teammates at the time, but like I didn't know what my average was for the entire year. I knew when I was in a slump, don't get me wrong, most people do, but it was never the conversation between you and I of like, oh, you're batting 250 so far for the year. You really got to get that up. It was, hey, you had two RBIs tonight. You helped your team win. Really good job. So that's kind of my initial thoughts on it. I think it's just something people focus so much on, and I'll get into later, like maybe there's definitely a few benefits there. Like if there were no benefit, we wouldn't have stats, right? But I
Right.
think it's just kind of it's focused on too much, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, been a high school softball coach 3 years now, and I had past coaches give me a box of statistics and old scorebooks, right? So I've had a bunch of people saying, hey, we got to start compiling all those stats like the 100 hit club, right? This many home run club, statistics. How about your girls? How many hits did they have in college or high school? And I go, I don't even know. And to this day, I haven't even looked at those old scorebooks because you guys are in those. It was a coach before me. And I don't know if you've had 100 hits or 90 hits or 75, but it's like, did you start in ninth grade? Did you start in 10th grade? Are you triple A? Are you class D? Are you class C? Like, and I see on social media 1,000 strikeouts as 11th grader. I'm like, fantastic. And I'm not taking that away from you, but who are you playing at some point? Like nobody addresses that. So I think we mix up statistics with productivity.
I would agree. I like
Like
that.
one statistic they don't have is how many sack flies do you have? How many bunts do you have? How many quality at bats do you have? And those aren't going to make the box score in the paper. Those aren't going to make the tweets. Hey, oh my gosh, we won 7-2, and Allie had 3 sack flies today. Whoa,
Yeah.
all right, put her in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Uh, you, you, they're important. Don't get me wrong. You want the girl with X amount of home runs or X amount of doubles, but in a game of failure, I think it's funny how we spend so much time talking about how successful we are.
Yeah, I mean, going off that, I think stats should be a supplement to your game, but it shouldn't be your North Star. That shouldn't be the thing that you're chasing, right? You shouldn't. So I try to turn my girls away from going into a season, and when I'm like, "What's your goal?" They're like, "I want to bat 350. I want to have this many RBIs, and I want to do this." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fantastic, and I love that for you, but at the same time, that can't be all that you have. What about being a leader? What about hitting well under pressure? And you can apply it to any other sport. What about free throws when the game's on the line? What about how you do on that last hole in golf when you're tied neck and neck, right? Like how is that? I don't it can't be the North Star is kind of what I keep telling myself that it can't be the only thing that you focus on. And again, like there are some positives to it. I remember in college, sometimes, I would look at my stats and sometimes they made me feel really bad about myself and sometimes they made me feel really good. So I think that's hard too. It's emotionally triggering sometimes when we could have a great game and my team wins and all of a sudden I look at my stats and I'm feeling some type of way about myself and then I wish I didn't. You know what I'm saying? So there's
Right.
also the flip side of, well, people say, "Oh, well, we lost, but I was 4 for 4." Right? So I think it's just dangerous in terms of like how emotionally charged you can get if you're too involved in them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, a couple things. My first year when I took the high school program over, I would ask girls, I thought these would be no-brainers. I'm like, all right, would you rather win 3-2? Or would you rather be 3 for 4 with the game? Or no, would you rather lose 3-2 or be 3 for 4, but your last at bat was a strikeout with the bases loaded? And they're just silent for a minute. And I mean, I would think it's a no-brainer to say I'd rather win 3-2. Now, if you end up losing and you were 3 for 4 and you struck out, I get that's still an okay day. You were productive,
Mhm.
but how do you not want your team to win?
Well, and I think that's the dangerous part is when you get too caught up in it, that might become more important to you and like subconsciously, which is so dangerous because if you asked us growing up, my answer would have been win,
Right.
like no matter what. And I think it's just so hard and it can be a lot of times I hate to say it, but it's brought on kids by their parents too. Hey, did you know your average was this? I remember in college, right, there were some times when you'd be like, oh, like you've had a good few games, like your average. I'm like, I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't, and it
Yeah.
wasn't a knock at you, but I was just like, nope, I don't want to know.
Because
And
I
and
knew it. I mean,
uh,
again, that's the
yeah.
trap. As a dad, I knew it.
And I will say it's hard now. I feel like I'm even aging myself here, but it's everywhere with technology. There's a stat for this and crazy stats out there like, oh, you hit the plate 6 times before you like what like just crazy stats out there of stuff that everybody's doing. And I think it's harder to avoid than it used to be.
Yeah, well, and everybody posts their good stats on Twitter. And we did that webinar with hundreds of people watching and college coaches where the college coaches are like, that's great, but that's not what we look at necessarily. We want to see you strike out. We want to see you struggle. We want to see how you talk to your teammates, how you interact with your parents and the umpires and the other teams. And th those are intangibles. I do something in class when I talk about investing in their futures, and this makes me think I could transfer it to softball. I want to know your thoughts. I make the kids come up with vision lists, 25 things they want to accomplish. I teach seniors, so 25 things they want to accomplish before they graduate. And what I tell them, I have a lot of athletes. I said, I don't want anything you can't control. Like, I don't want you to say, I want to win a sectional championship. I want to win states. I get those are great goals. That's why I coach to try to do that. But I want it to be things that when we look back in June, maybe you've accomplished 12 or 13 of them because they should be hard, right?
Hmm.
If you accomplish everything you set out to do, that those aren't goals, that's a to-do list. Like
Yeah,
you
I
gotta
love that.
have, yeah, you gotta have hard things. So like if you say I want to go to the weight room 5 days a week, and then when you graduate high school for the last 10 months, if you went to the weight room 5 days a week, I don't care what result that brings, you're gonna be better than you were then. Uh, I want to open a brokerage account. Again, not sports related, but if you open a brokerage account before you graduate high school, you're better off than 90% of society. Now let's get after it. So
Hmm.
I want it to be things like that. Everybody wants to tie results to their vision list. I don't want results. I want things you can control that may take a lot of discipline that you may fall off the track with that may are hard, but you look at those. I'm going to show them again in May. I'm going to show, I took them from the kids. I'm going to give them back to them in May and say, where are we at? Like you said, you wanted these things. What have you been doing? And
Well,
I,
the thing yeah,
no,
sorry,
and so I think you could do that with sports too, is what I'm saying. Like I think March, I could give a sheet to my team and say, what's your vision list for the season? What do you want to accomplish? How do you want to be a better teammate? What do you want? And if someone says bat 300, no, that's not acceptable because there's so many things out of your control with that.
hmm
I want to have 50% quality at bats. Now we're talking, right?
hmm
So what are your thoughts on that? That was a big time ramble for me.
No, what I was gonna say though, the irony to that is, okay, you use the example of I want to win a sectional title. You can't put that on the list. I guarantee the 5, 10 other goals you put on there are gonna help you win a sectional title. You
Yes,
just phrase them differently. So I
that's
think
it.
that's the power in it is you put things down that you can control and it leads you to that end goal that you want. It's funny, I tell the girls I coach that all the time when you're hitting in the box and I'm like, what are you thinking about? It better be something you can control. Because if it's not, then it's not really going to help you. Like you should always be thinking about something that you can control. So I love that you said that because I think that those mini goals, I'll call them, help you reach the big one. Those are the steps to the level that you want to get to. Your goal can't just be the next level. It has to be the steps to get
And
to the.
again, my friend Cam F. Awesome's the one that always says that. If you don't reach your goals, but your goals are high enough, you get all the low-hanging fruit on the way down. Like you're so much better of a person. When I took over in high school, they said, "Why do you want the job?" I'm like, "Well, I want to help us win a state championship." And we were 7-10 our first year. And then this year we're in the state championship game, and the girls are like, "Coach, we're so close to your goal." And I go, "Yes, but remember, look how better off we are now from all we've accomplished." And of course, we fell short, and it hurts at the time, but we're all better people because of what we accomplished. Of course,
Mhm.
that's the goal, but make it high enough so everything else later, when the sting wears off and the sadness wears off, you appreciate what you've accomplished. And I don't think people phrase it that. I'm not trying to spin it because only
Mhm.
one team can win, right? But if you do everything the right way and if you're working towards the right things, you're just such a better person for life. And you compound that for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the results don't even matter after that because you have results at that point that you didn't even think you could reach 20 years ago or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's hard telling. I got way too philosophical. It's
No,
hard it's hard telling younger kids that.
and one thing I was just thinking about, and stay with me on this analogy because I think you're gonna like it. So
I
to
love
me,
analogies.
to me, it's almost like if anyone out there's ever sports bet before, so this is for like the adults in the room, right? It's like, okay, if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan and if I have a sports bet going, and all of a sudden that makes me root against the Buffalo Bills, it's kind of like, what am I doing? So it's kind of stats. It's like, okay, I want my team to win, but I'm also wanting personal gain. Like, I don't know if that analogy, it's just kind of like where my train of thought went in my mind. It's you want to root for something, but you have this pull to like root for the wrong thing, if that makes sense. Hmm?
I I
Do you know
don't
what I
I don't
mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
no, listen. So I play no fantasy football. because I don't understand. I mean, I'm a Steeler fan, I'm a Bills fan. The older I get, I'm almost a fan of who I identify as good people also. You know what I mean? But that just comes with being a 53-year-old. But if I'm watching the Steelers, I don't understand how you could be a Steeler fan, watch a game and be like, I hope they win. Boy, I hope Josh Allen throws for 2 touchdowns and I still win. What are you even talking about?
Hmm.
Like, so now your life isn't about rooting and being a fan and winning and losing. It's about hoping somebody almost comes close to beating you, but then you still get money afterwards.
Well,
And
and
so I don't know if I explained it well enough, but I get your analogy 100%. I don't gamble on sports. I don't play fantasy sports. I don't knock people that do it. I just don't understand how you can be that invested in all that stuff you can't control.
and the reason my train of thought went to the stats conversation is because how many times athletes out there are you in a game and your team's winning, but you're mad?
Yeah,
Like that's kind of where my train of, and I'm victim of, or like I'm guilty of it too. It's really hard, and
everybody
you have
is.
to check yourself
Yep.
and say, if I really care about what I say I care about, I need to put this off to the side. Now, one thing I want to get into, I do think there are a few benefits of having statistics, so I don't want to be completely one-sided on this. So if we want to dive into that a little bit, I
Yeah,
think it
let's
is a
do it.
good I think it is a good humility check sometimes, right? If you think you're the hottest thing since sliced bread and you can just do whatever you want, you're never going to get pulled out of a game, you have your spot, it's yours, and all of a sudden you look at a stat and you're like, wow, I have one, we'll use basketball. My field goal percentage is 10% in the last 4 weeks, right? That's not good. So I think it can be used as a little bit of a push to say, what are my areas of focus that I need to work on? I don't think it necessarily needs to be, here's the exact number I need to get to, but I do think it's helpful to say, for softball, for example, wow, I bat 400, but with runners in scoring position, I bat 100. So how can I change my approach to that? So almost how do you use it strategically and directionally as opposed to a threshold that you need to get to, if that makes sense.
From a coach's standpoint, it's a little different because statistics, if I'm trying to bust into the starting lineup or trying to get more playing time, you darn well know if the people in front of you, if their stats are declining or increasing. You might not know the exact stat, but you're like, oh, so and so hasn't got a hit in 3 games. Now, as a coach, I'm looking, do I just go by stats and say someone's 0 for 12? I'm yanking her and putting the other person in. Or where's the loyalty and all the other intangibles of sports? But she's also the best cheer on the team. She's high energy. She did. I'm saying she because softball, it could be
Right.
he, it could be whatever. I don't know the answer to any of that. Like, so stats are very valuable, but they can divide a team so much too.
Hmm. And I think it's interesting sometimes when we have coaches who say stats don't matter, and then you say, "Why am I sitting the bench?" And they're like, "Well, your stats should." It's so hard because I feel like if it's a double-edged sword, if it's all you focus on, you're probably going to have lower stats. And I'm just saying, I don't know how you'd even do that study or isolate
Yeah.
it, but genuinely, I think if you focus on different things, right, you use those mini goals to get to the big one. I think long term in sports and in the game of life, you're probably going to be better off because you and I were talking before we hit record. I don't think in a lot of other aspects of our life we use stats, right? I don't go to work every day and I'm like, oh, I was 2 for 3 today with getting these emails out on time. Like it doesn't work like that. So I
I'm
just
leading the company and coming to work early.
yeah, exactly. You could get crazy stats on that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just we don't think like that in a lot of other aspects of our life. I mean, I think you just set a goal and you try to reach it. I know, like for myself, we were talking about this before. I ran a half marathon this past weekend. That was not something I thought I would ever do. Like, I was not a runner. When I moved to Illinois, the most I'd ever run was like 3 miles. And I was like, I'm gonna run a half marathon. And it wasn't, oh my gosh, if I don't get this time, this was all for nothing. It's gonna be totally for no
Right.
reason. No, like, I went on pretty runs during my training. I enjoyed all of it. Did I have a goal in mind at the end? Yeah. But if I didn't get it, it wasn't going to ruin the entire experience, right? And one thing I really liked that somebody said about like marathon running or half marathon running, it's one of the only sports where you're cheering for the other people that are doing it with you. Like you're not rooting against anybody really. Like I mean, I'm not winning a half marathon or that's not my caliber thing, but
Right.
the person next to me, I'm cheering them on as they're passing me. I'm like, you got this. Good job. And I think it's just really interesting. So that was a little off topic, but I saw that yesterday and I thought it
No,
was
no, it's fantastic. And again, listen, I'm just a rinky-dink softball coach, right, for high school, but I don't even look at batting average. I have a formula that I look at how much their quality at bat was. Like, because you could hit a line drive that someone just catches, or you could hit a flare, right?
mm,
But was that flare an outside pitch with two strikes? Well, that's a pretty good flare at that point. And
yeah.
was the line drive just a first pitch right down the middle that you just jumped on at somebody? And when I keep those stats, I have no problem telling people why they play or don't play, if that makes sense. Because it's based on how productive you are at your at bats. And productive doesn't mean results, you know.
Mhm.
Running your marathon, the end goal is finishing the marathon.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to think in softball, the end goal is not just finishing the game. That would be a little dramatic, I would think.
Right.
But you have to define what you're looking at, and but I don't think just a time for a marathon is good or just a batting average is good or heck in golf, the goal of golf is to play the least amount of golf.
Yeah. I
That's
was gonna
even weird.
ask how you think about stats in golf because that's a unique one.
Golfers are funny. When I was in college, everybody be like, "Oh, what'd you shoot today?" Well, I had a 73, but I missed a putt on this hole and I got a bad break on this hole. So my buddies and I started just saying, so ask me how I did today.
How'd you do in your round today?
I had a 73, and then you're
Oh,
gonna
what
say,
happened?
well, I missed the putt for 72. That's all
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. It's just the story. You're not going to have a perfect softball game. You're not going to have a perfect marathon. You're not going to have a perfect round of golf. Nobody, I don't want to say nobody cares because there's people in your circle that care. But
Yeah.
to just rant about it afterwards, the better answer in softball or golf would be like, well, I had a 73, but man, I grinded it out. Didn't have it today, but I just made the best of it. Softball. I was 0 for 4, but man, I barreled up 4 times. It was just right
Hmm.
to people. Like those are the consistent things they're going to get you.
Yeah. Well, I think too, the other sport that comes to mind from a stats perspective is basketball for me. It's a sport I played my entire
Mm.
life. Why do they keep people on the court that only score 2 points a game? There must be some value add, right? If people,
Can't
you
have
know what I'm
five
talking
shooters.
about?
Can't have five shooters.
No. So it's like if you only look at points per game or you only look at rebounds, for example, okay, well, what about the guy who's leading everybody else, telling them where to go? What about the guy who always has the best help side defense? What about like those are
Yep.
things that aren't going to show up in the post game stat sheet afterwards. So I think it's just really, really unique, and we could go on for a while. But what do you think maybe is something positive about stats,
Well, I mean,
if you can think of one?
I'm trying to think.
Just for us to play devil's advocate, but.
Yeah, obviously batting 600 is better than batting 200, right? Uh, Striking out 1 time versus 10 times is better. But to this day, I don't know. Like, are you a 8-year-old playing 12U?
Right.
Are you a 16U playing technically with a late birthday, still playing 14U? Like, I don't I don't know. I just think it's part of the mix. And of course, there's nothing wrong with doing well.
Mhm.
But I just don't think that should be your identity. That's all.
So I guess, and we can both answer this, what advice would you give to a player out there whose coach is like really focused on stats? How do they not do that if that's what their coach is super focused on? Because
Find
I've seen it happen,
find a
right?
new
If
coach. No, but seriously,
yeah.
that's my answer. But that's really hard. Like
Hmm.
depending, if it's travel or high school or uh I just think you go out and compete every day and you might not get your said result you want with that coach, but you're going to be a better player by just showing up and being consistent. Like if all a coach is focused on his stats, I don't know how to help you except just to keep show up and grinding and you might bust through. Am I
Yeah.
wrong there? I don't
No,
know.
I think you just have to focus more on the mini goals is because I
Yes.
think I think the
Good. Well
problem is
said.
when
Well said.
coaches focus on stats is kids don't have mini goals and then they get selfish because it's like, well, if my coach only cares about stats, I'm only going to care about stats because that's how I get on the field. So it creates this like super toxic environment with your team. So I just think coaches out there listening to it starts with you and it has to trickle down. So I think it's hard too, to your point, because sometimes if I'm a coach and I'm looking at a roster specifically, right, college is going to be different than like a 12U travel team, right? Like there's a little more stake in the game if you're a D1 softball coach versus a, 12-year-old travel tournament playing in pool play on a Saturday, like how you're making those lineups from a stat perspective. But I think because when coaches look at it, right, they might say, well, okay, this girl's batting 400 and this girl's batting 200 and we're 50 games into the season. So that could be something that they look at. And you have to
Right.
understand that because when you get to that level, yeah, it's not about stats, but that's pretty telling to look at that 50 games in and having 150 at bats to say, okay, she's gotten on base twice as many times as you. So I think from that perspective, you have to understand that, but your focus can't be, oh, well, I need to bat higher than this girl, or I need to bat XYZ because you can't control that. You can only control your mini goals and reaching all of them. So I think just that analogy of those having mini goals to get to the big one, right? Okay, you want to bat 400, get in the cage and work on your weaknesses. Have a better approach at the plate. Attack the pitches early. And I could do this for any sport, but those are
Right.
things you can control, not your average. Because to your point, and we can play this game all day, and I would joke with my teammates, you could hit 4 line drives in a game right at people. Is your swing the problem? Probably not, right? It's the outcome. So,
Well, so two things. When I stunk in golf till like 10th grade. Okay. They kept me on the team in ninth grade just because I played all the time. It's almost like sympathy, but the coach was like, this kid plays every single day. So in 10th grade, all of a sudden, I started every varsity match from 10th, 11th, 12th grade and was all state. But so when I was in ninth grade and barely made the team, there were people not starting that were right outside the lineup, right? Comparing, saying, well, next year when that senior leaves, I'm going to jump in. When that person leaves, I'm going to jump in. All of a sudden, I went from ninth grade not playing to 10th grade making the state team. Boom. Nobody saw that coming. So my point is, you got a middle school girl, right? That might play JV next year, a JV girl that might go varsity, the varsity girl that's going to play college. They have great stats, but they're looking up at the person ahead of them and saying, that person's only batting 127. That person's only doing this. They're comparing apples and oranges. And then they're not even comparing the apples and oranges that aren't even in the bushel basket, meaning the subs. Am I
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, so that's the dangerous stats. I bet 800 in high school. I mean, that's obviously a made up number, but it may happen somewhere. So when I go to college, the shortstop's only bat 150. So I know I can overpower her. But
Mhm.
what are you comparing? Do you
Yeah.
see you see where I'm going with
No,
that with the
yeah, I
gambling?
really like it. The other kind of facet of life I see this in too would be your job, right? You want a promotion. Okay, what are you gonna do to get the promotion? You can't just keep saying, I want to get promoted. I want to get promoted. Okay, what are you gonna do? It's the same thing with like an athletic goal you have. You can't just say, I want to go to states. Okay, how are you gonna get to states? Like we don't ask the how question sometimes. I feel like it. I want to get recruited. How are you gonna get recruited? What are your goals that you're going to do every day to get recruited, right? It's not, okay, I want to be a manager at work someday. That doesn't mean I start wishing bad on every manager at my company. That's not how like your right? Like that's not how your job works. So I think it's so important for sports to teach you that thought process in the like arena of sports because you're going to have to use it in your life.
And it could be being a manager at a different company someday or a different team
Mhm.
because the current team or company's full of good managers. So
Right.
that's what I mean. You can't compare the next level and say, oh, I'm going to be better. You can't compare the people around you. You just got to keep being productive And you can use those stats, like you said earlier, I wrote as a supplement to what you're doing, but then
Mhm.
set your goals high enough that if you don't reach them, you're still better off.
Well, and I think too, if you talk to, I can give everybody here a side quest if they haven't done it. Go talk to 10 people who are 10 years into the career and ask them if that's what they thought they were going to be doing when they graduated college. I bet you're going to be really surprised. And my reason I bring that up is because what if we thought about that in athletics, right? Okay, somebody has that position, but someone's offering me this one. Okay, I want to play shortstop, but hey, second's open. Like it's such a life mindset that we don't realize until after we're done. It's you don't always get what you want. And hopefully I'm not the first person to tell people that, but it's just you have to be willing to adapt and adjust. So I don't know how much of a tangent I just went off on, but it
No,
just
no,
came to my mind.
I'll, yeah, I'll just piggyback on that a little bit. To think you're gonna, because you're at said level and at said position or said career, that that's where you're gonna go at the next level is ridiculous. Why would you put yourself in that box? If you're a softball player, you just want to keep being a softball player. If you're a financial analyst, you just want to keep being a financial analyst. If you're a teacher, you just want to be a teacher. But have that mindset where you're going to grow and do things you never thought you could do.
Hmm.
You know, I
Yeah,
think we covered
it's
it.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, yeah, keep setting those mini goals. Think about what your big goal is, and then think about what you can have some mini goals in. And it can be in any aspect of your life. It doesn't just have to be sports.
Yes. And within the mini goals, set the goals high enough that when you don't reach them all, you get all the goals on the way down.
Yeah, like maybe if you have 20 mini goals, it only takes you 10 of them to reach your big one.
Amen.
So,
Thanks, Allie.
yeah. All right. Thanks. Bye, guys.